You'll see here that I'm on my Tools menu. I'm going to tap the FirsTitle icon and open the app. Here we are on the main screen. You'll see we can choose to work with buyer, seller, do custom marketing, tutorials, or if you need help, you can tap the Drew Dossie button and get some help. Since we're doing a cost to buyer or quick estimate for a buyer, I'm going to start by tapping the buyer button. Here you see under the buyer menu that we have quick estimate, monthly affordability, rent versus buy, etc. This time I'm only going to tap the quick estimate. This takes us to the calculation screen. You'll notice in the top left that conventional is highlighted in light blue. Beside that, there's FHA, VA, and more. If, for example, you wanted a closing cost scenario for a cash deal. At the top of the menu, you'll see that it says required by home price. This is the most important part. I'm going to tap required, and for the sake of discussion, we're going to use $250,000. So I'll tap 250 and then the handy little 1,000 button. Now I want the keypad to go away, so in the top right hand corner of the keypad, I'm going to tap done. Below that is the down payment option. You'll see it pre-populates at 10%. I know that my buyer is only going to put 5% down, so I'm going to tap the 10%, back out the 10, and tap 5. Now that I'm finished, in the top right hand corner of the keypad, I'm going to hit done. The interest rate and term pre-populate. 30 years is a common term for a mortgage, and 4.125 is the current interest rate from a national average right now. That will change as interest rates change and go up and down. Below that is miscellaneous. If you tap the gear by miscellaneous, it would give you examples of things you could add to closing cost or subtract from closing cost. So for example, you could subtract from closing cost seller pays. And if the sellers were going to pay, in this case, $1,000 of the buyer's closing cost, you could add that number in there, hit continue in the bottom right, and it will subtract that from the buyer's closing costs. Below that is homeowner's insurance. Now, as a standard, it pre-populates $125 a month or $1,500 a year. Of course, you'll want your buyers to get a specific estimate from a local vendor. But for the sake of discussion and for most quotes, this is a good place to start. Below that is taxes. Again, you'll notice a gear beside taxes. This is the millage rate for the local municipalities. Now, most municipalities, Tulsa for example, have several. This is the most common one, or the average that's about in the middle. If you hit the gear beside taxes, you'll notice that it pulls up other cities around Tulsa. So if for the sake of discussion, this specific house was in Broken Arrow, I could tap the Use button beside Broken Arrow, and it would use the millage rate for that municipality. Below that is HOA fees. Sometimes they're annual, sometimes they're monthly. You'll notice to the right, there's an A and an M. So if the Homeowners Association fees were $1,200 annually, I would type in $1,200, hit done, and it shows annually. If they were $1,200 monthly, I would tap the M, and it would add that to the closing cost as a monthly charge. In this case, there are no closing costs, so I'm going to back out the $1,200 and put none. The final item on this page is the closing date. Now, today it's May 16th, 2017. I know on a contract I write today is going to need about 45 days, so I'm going to go down to the last day in June. You'll notice that I can't do June 31st. That's because it's either a weekend or a holiday, so it makes me choose June 30th. So I'm going to select June 30th, 2017 as my closing date and hit done in the top right. Now that I have everything filled out on the calculation screen, I'm going to hit in the bottom right the compute button. That will take me to the numbers, the actual closing cost for this scenario. Here we've reached the calculated screen. Now from here we have 4 options, and we're only going to choose one. But briefly, I'll show you what those options are. Now if I take my finger and put it on the screen and scroll to the left, you'll notice that it brings up the buyer's checklist. This is similar to the gear on the miscellaneous item on the calculation screen, just back behind us. Here you can highlight things to add to closing cost or to subtract from closing costs. Now if I take my finger and I swipe to the right, it takes me to the loan comparison screen, which is really neat if you're doing flyers for maybe an open house. Here, I can tap 3 different loan scenarios and hit the compare button at the bottom, and it will make a flyer for me that I can put in an open house that would be great for a potential buyer. Now, back to the calculated screen, you'll notice in the bottom left there's a CD Timelines TRID. That's something we'll cover in another video. For now, we're doing a buyer's closing cost for one single scenario. So in the bottom right, I'm going to tap Send. And here we are. The home estimate, the buyer's closing cost scenario for the specific house that we wanted to show them. Now in the bottom, you'll notice that there are 4 dots. Those 4 dots represent 4 different formats that the same information can be on. If I simply swipe to the left, you'll see the 4 different options. And they get simpler or less complex as you go further to the right. So if I swipe back all the way to the left and start here at the home estimate, you'll notice that we have a nice clean flyer. Profile picture in the top, contact information, which is most important. In the bottom left, you see the button Property Details. If I tap Property Details, I can put in even more specific information. For example, this property is for the Jones family. The address, the school district, and then you'll notice I put notes, new construction, McCullough home. At the bottom, I put property photos of the house, so that way, if you're sending a buyer several different closing cost scenarios for several different houses, by doing this and putting in specific details of the property and pictures, you can allow the homeowner to associate a specific down payment and a specific mortgage payment or monthly payment with each individual house. In the bottom right of this, I'm going to hit Done because I want that to go away. Here's your home estimate with a nice little graph. You'll notice that it is 2 pages, and down here are the notes where it says for the Jones family, the school district, and that it's a new construction McCullough home. If we scroll back up to the first page, we're finally at the end. In the top right-hand corner, I want to tap the Send button. Now what's great about this is it gives you the option to email, text, or more. And more, you could maybe make a Facebook post or tweet it if you were into that. What's really nice about this is it's a way to capture a potential buyer's contact information. So, for example, the traditional way of getting their contact information is to set out a blank piece of paper on the table and say, hey, please sign in. Why don't you put your name and contact information and I'll follow up with something. Everybody knows that doesn't really work. What's neat about this is you can generate a very useful closing cost scenario, pull it up, and then hand them your phone and say, hey, if you would like a closing cost scenario, email or text this to yourself. Now, if they text it, they get a text message from you, they put in their cell phone number, and you've generated a useful conversation and giving them something that they can benefit from. If they put in their email address, now you've captured their email address, and again, you've sent them a nice, clean, useful PDF with relevant information, and most importantly, it's got your contact information, your personal logo, and your phone number pasted right on the top. Thanks for watching our tutorial on how to do a cost to buyer with the FirsTitle Closing Cost app. If you have any feedback, questions, or comments, please leave them below.